We're going to start off the season with our Eastern Conference preview. So, as we've done in the past, we are going to run through the teams and how they've shaken up over the off season, which only just started and only just ended. Training camp began today. We're going to go through, talk a bit about some of the changes they've made, and then what we think of them, where we think they're going to finish, according to our own opinion on the moves they've made. So I'm going to start the clock as soon as I find the clock. I'm going to start the clock with me doing the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks have had quite a controversial offseason. Everything's been, well, the elephant in the room, which everyone could see and hear all around the league, has been whether or not Giannis is going to sign his big deal to show his loyalty to the Bucks, or show that he wants to stay and show that he thinks the Bucks are a credible franchise in helping him win a championship, which is his ultimate goal. With that in mind, they decided to bring in Drew Holiday in a trade for Bledsoe and George Hill. They also sent a raft of picks to the Pelicans with that. It's 3 picks, 3 first rounders and 3 pick swaps as well. And then they also decided to announce a sign and trade with a player who hadn't signed yet in Bogdan Bogdanovic. For those of you that know the rules and understand the rules, you're not allowed to talk to players that haven't signed their contract yet until after a certain period, and the whole signing and trading was revealed or leaked well before that point was meant to take place, like a week before that point was meant to take place. So the league were like, are you trying to embarrass us? He said, no, Magic Johnson, we're going to nix your trade. So that got nipped in the bud, and then people weren't sure whether that trade was still going to go through when the right time came. But immediately at the first opportunity, the Bucks, what did they do? They waived Ilyasova, who was needed to match the salary of Bogdan Bogdanovic, and we knew at that moment that it wasn't going to happen. It's going to be all about playoff results, I think, in terms of retaining Giannis. If they can go deep in the playoffs and do enough to appease Giannis, then I think he will stay, and I think that's what the whole franchise will hinge on. I'm going to give myself a little loop there because I'm at the 2-minute mark, so I need to wrap it up. And yeah, that's where their season hinges. I still see them as contenders, even though I think they've gotten a little bit worse as far as depth goes, but maybe a little bit better as far as starting 5 goes. What do you guys think? Jose, do you want to start us off?
I think you're absolutely right. First, the really bad move in announcing Bogdan was in before he actually was. That would have added a lot of value to the team. I would really like to see Chris Middleton step up a little bit more as a second scoring figure, if you will. If he does, and Giannis has a bit more support, they might still have a chance. They will still be contenders, in my opinion. I think you're absolutely right.
Patris?
I think signing Drew Holiday for the Bucks was a big deal. Definitely a big underrated player. One of my kind of favorite players as well. And I think he's much better than Eric Bledsoe. And I think since they lost Malcolm Brogdon as well, they kind of struggled at the point guard position. So I think someone to kind of help kind of Giannis as well. So I think the trades they've made and the people they've got in definitely favour him staying. And I think he'd be a fool to leave because they're going to offer him the max and stuff like that. And any other team he goes to, he's just going to struggle over again. And his identity is Milwaukee. So I think it makes sense for him to stay, definitely.
Tom?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to brought one of the Holiday brothers on. don't know. That was a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm slightly more interesting about in the Bogdanovic affair. What was that about? Like, was it because it was leaked by Volge quite early? Is that what happened? And then they
there's two stories going around. One is that the league stepped in and said it was tampering, which it is, and that other owners were unhappy that basically if they were fearful that if they brought in Drew Holiday and Bogdanovic, that Giannis would definitely stay, right? So it's in their best interest for a trade like that not to go through, not only because they might then win a championship, but also because they would want Giannis to be available. But then the other side of it is that there were rumors that Bogdanovic never ever signed off on it, that it was arranged, but it was leaked before he found out about it. And knowing about that trade and then the Drew Holiday trade meant that not only would he be a fourth option behind Giannis, Drew, Middleton, it also meant that he would have only been able to get paid so much once Drew Holiday was signed, because he would have gotten a bigger contract and Bogdanovic would have ended up with a smaller slice of the cap. So it's one of those two things or both.
Right. Do you still see them as a top three in the East then, even though they're shorter in terms of roster?
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my doubts.
Yeah, I do.
Somehow. I don't know.
Who would you put above them?
That's the weird thing, is that the East, right? It's so
there you go.
So weird. I guess the Nets, which I'll be talking about, depending on what configuration they go, what they go with. Yeah. I don't know. See, that's just the one team that can.
And then after maybe that, it's a toss-up, right? So that's why I would put them there, just out of consistency. All right, I think it's time to move on.
Calm down.
Next team is the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, damn, that'd be me.
There you go.
All right, then. How do you want to do this? All right, cool. So in terms of who's in and who's out in there, two biggest players out of the Raptors are obviously Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, which, to be fair, I don't think they've been replaced at all by anyone. They've signed Aaron Baines and Alex Lane, and I think the biggest move of the offseason in terms of keeping people on the roster was re-signing Fred VanVleet, which is Dave's absolute favorite MVP every year. And they re-signed Chris Boucher, my favorite name in the entire NBA. So they finished I think they were 53-19 last season. By the time the NBA stopped, they didn't have the playoff run I think we were all hoping they would have. I think Marc Gasol was pretty much, or he looked like he was closer to retirement as than but still being the all-star and an influential player on the court that he was. So I guess losing him, I don't know if it's such a massive deal in the end. We'll see. You guys can let me know if you feel the same. I still see them quite high up in the East, but maybe not top three anymore. So I've been pretty mean to them when I'm now put them into the top 5 to top 8. So I think top 5, if everything goes well, no injuries and everything goes well. 8 if VanVleet doesn't have a good season, if the rest of the players are not performing as they should be, unless they can add more bodies in there, I don't see them being as good as they were. So I think I've read somewhere they were still hoping to sign Antetokounmpo in 2021, but I don't know if that's one of his primary destination if he was to leave the Bucks. That's it. See that just on time. You're welcome.
I actually did read that they are interested in getting Antetokounmpo, and You know, they got Kawhi at one point, and we never thought that could happen, right?
Yeah.
Baines by no means replaces Ibaka and Gasol, but he's a solid defender.
Yeah.
He give you the hustle, and we'll see. I mean, Siakam still there, Kyle Lowry still leader. I still see them, up there.
I think the fact that they've got Lowry and Van Vliet, as good as they are, they're still two undersized point guards who can't really jump. You know what I mean? And I think when they go to the hole, they're going to get the shots blocked, 60% of the time, And I think, because of the bubble and stuff, they had a time break off. They didn't have that kind of run. During the season, I think they went on like a 15 to 18 game winning streak and stuff where they was doing well. But I think the key factor was Pascal Siakam didn't show up in the bubble. In the regular season, he was doing fine, but then towards the end of the season and in the playoffs, he was nowhere to be seen. And was that symptomatic of his skill set, or was that just because of the whole situation? That is the key decider, I think, for the Raptors moving forward, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree that Siakam taking that step into being the first option. When the season started, he was absolutely on fire and seemed like he could take on all of that responsibility. And then as the season went on, that definitely faded to the point where I think Kyle Lowry was their highest scorer in the playoffs. And Kyle Lowry's a good player, excellent floor general, but he can't be relied on to score every single night in the playoffs. Fred VanVleet got the big money. He's going to have to step up, but they're going to have to find some kind of way to get that offense ticking because they don't have Kawhi to rely on as they did, as you guys have rightly said. I would say solid playoffs. I think they've taken a slight step back from top of the East.
Fair.
Yeah, and then
playoffs for sure, but I just it depends on Siakam. It depends on, there's a lot of factors that and I don't know if losing Ibaka is maybe a bigger loss than you would imagine, because he could shoot the three. Possible. He could, he's a good rebounder. He's a great defender also. So they've not replaced him with, Aaron Baines is fine. He's tough. He can bring you a good bunch of minutes, but the same quality than Ibaka, I don't believe so. So
no. Agree.
It's just math.
Yeah. All right. So next team is the Boston Celtics. Let's get green.
Yes, the Boston Celtics. So notable players that they added: Tristan Thompson from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Jess Teague, and they re-signed Taco Fall into a two-way contract. They obviously lost, and their biggest loss is Gordon Hayward. Brad Wanamaker, Enes Kanter, and Vincent Poirier. Biggest loss again, Gordon Hayward. He went and got some good money from the Hornets, but we'll talk about that later. Their X factor and their best move, they gave a max contract to Jason Tatum. Danny Ainge knows they're trying to build a franchise around this player, and I think they're absolutely right. I think this is a great move, in my opinion. This guy was averaging 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists last season. Great move, in my opinion. Great move. In my opinion, I still believe in the Celtics when it comes to the prediction. I still leave him up there in the East. Kemba Walker, still a solid player, averaging 20 last season. His knee is not great, but Teague can be a good sub. Tristan Thompson can be solid in the paint. They needed something like that. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Smart and Brown are still there. Good players. And, obviously, Gordon Hayward was averaging 17 last season, but that just means that Kemba is going to have to score 7 more per game and Tatum another 10, which they easily can do. Again, in my opinion, contenders, at least in the East. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I always feel with the Celtics, like it feels like they're missing an X factor.
Right.
They've got Tatum, but I don't know. They always when I think Celtics, I think solid. I think tough to beat, and I don't know. There's no, there's no literally there's no X factor. There's no LeBron. There's no
Sure.
Giannis. There's no Kawhi. There's no, that little something, that little spice that you need.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, in the East, yeah, easy top. There you go, top three. Up there with the rest. But I don't know. I don't know. It's always I can never figure them out. It's like they can go to the finals or they go to the semis and then they never take the extra step, or they go the extra mile and do it. So I don't know. So there was a mystery to me. It seems like it's the same thing over and over again with them, been running the same team or the same core of players, but it's not really going anywhere. Maybe there's thinking behind it, and they think they can run it a couple more times. More experience, more playoff experience, and then they can just maybe one day. They only need that one time to get to the finals and win it all. So we don't know, but there's still a mystery to me. I can't quite figure them out.
It's quite funny. I think re-signing Taco Fall is like his most notable kind of appearance last season was Aaron Gordon dunking over him for one, and number two was that out of bounds play where the Raptors hit the buzzer, hit the three on the buzzer. It's kind of like, what, Brad Stevens, why are you even putting him in? He doesn't use him at all. Obviously, he wants to see him grow into a kind of decent player, but I think, he's just there for kind of novelty factor. I do believe if the Celtics would have beaten Miami, they may have had a better run than Miami in the finals.
Wow.
But at the same time, they didn't make it. They haven't made it. They've always gotten to like the Eastern Conference Finals, but they've never seemed to have that edge. Like you said, they're missing that key ingredient, But, how many teams have LeBron, Just one team. So Celtics, I really don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the only
I think they're a very good team, and they've been a very good team, or at least had a very good roster. But yeah, like you guys said, they're missing something. And for me, I think the thing that they're missing is like a real playmaker. Like Kemba Walker is a good point guard, but he's more of a scoring point guard. Sure. Jason Tatum is a scorer first. Jaylen Brown can score for you as like a secondary or tertiary option, off the catch, off the drive. But you don't look at anyone on that roster and say that guy's a playmaker. And I think as much as they sort of share the ball around and everyone gets 3 or 4 assists on the team, I think they lack someone to really sort of knit things together. I think maybe the perfect signing would have been like I don't know if he's still got it or not, but Draymond Green. Like if they had signed, obviously he wasn't on the market or anything like that. They weren't going to trade for him, but just in an ideal world, looking at that roster, I would love to have a Draymond Green in there at center instead of, say, a Tristan Thompson, for example. And I think having that kind of player would perfectly knit together the rest of the pieces that they have around them. Or, I mean, in a crazy world like Jokic, for example, like a player like that could really enhance what they're doing and maximize all of the talent that they have there. But this is the East. And in the NBA in general, a lot of these teams are flawed. Even the contenders are flawed. So, yeah, I think, as you've rightly said, they'll be at the top of the East somewhere. But ultimately, I wouldn't see them winning a championship this year. They're contenders in the East, but I wouldn't see them as a championship team.